This arpeggiated 6/4 you've already heard. You've used it actually before, or you've at least analyzed it, and we just ignored it. But it's often a way that a bass will end. So in this arpeggiated 6/4, we don't actually worry about the soprano at all. So the soprano, I'm just going to keep it on chord tones here so that it's out of the way. So I am just going to do this. Do an anticipation figure. It doesn't matter. You can decorate it later. Oops. Make sure I have the right rhythm here. So essentially for an arpeggiated 6/4, all that you do is you have the bass leaping to the different notes of the triad. So the most common would be to just go, not necessarily the most common, but one way would just be to leap from the root to the third to the fifth and all the way up. I'm not so keen on this right now because these are very close together, and so it's going to be hard to find a place for that tenor and the alto in there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down first to the G. Okay, that's creating the 6/4 chord there, and then up to the E flat. Okay, and that has a bit of a nicer shape around that C. So all it means is you're, in some sense, now we just created a broken chord figure. So now we're allowing the bass to have broken chord figure in this, or an arpeggiated figure. You could go up an octave. So if we had enough space between our voices here, that bass could go up the triad, C, E flat, G, and then all the way up to the C up here. So there's lots more options for the bass and a lot more movement, but we have had these kind of arpeggio-like figures at the end of, say, the accompanied melody where we saw this. You could also, instead of going to that E, we could just have the figure do that. So then this would look like a 1-5-1, but the rest of my voices will support that this is still just the tonic triad. Okay, so now the inner voices are just confirming, so let me fill them in here. Let me go back to my original figure so we can see how that all works out. Let me put the alto in here. Okay, it's just going to stay on the root of the chord. So we have C, E flat, and G. Now my tenor needs that G. Okay, and then here I have C. I don't have an E, so I'm going to have my tenor fill in that. Okay, and there we just are extending a tonic triad with this arpeggiated 6/4 chord. Don't forget, this is your arpeggiated 6/4 here. And this is my first inversion, right? So don't forget, there's root, there's my second inversion chord, there's my first inversion chord going back to the root. Okay, and that's all the 6/4 chords and how you create them from a framework.